The room hears itself before it hears him, a hum of cheap wiring and rain. Alex Reed said, "I took the money." His voice shakes like a loose bowl. The phone on speaker shows unknown and a timer that will not forgive. Unknown caller said, "How much did it cost to forget a life?" The question lands as if she already counted the bills. Alex stares at the judge's name on the screen and cannot blink. He swallows, and the sound is louder than his words. Alex Reed said, "Enough to make me think I was saving someone." He is 34 and looks older where the screen light bleaches his face. The rain drags neon across the window like ink crying. Unknown caller said, "You are not saving anyone." The room waits for a reply and gets confession instead. Alex Reed said, "I erased a judge's digital history. The moment splits like glass under heat and it will not heal." The room keeps the secret louder than he does. Alex stares at the phone as if it might spit out a sentence. Unknown caller said, "Say it clean." He hears the rain count 6 beats like a metronome for guilt. Alex Reed said, "Someone paid me to erase a judge's digital history." The words fall and do not bounce. He does not blink. The city hisses through the window like an audience that already knows the ending. Unknown caller said, "Who paid you?" The silence that follows is a body on the floor. Alex Reed said, "A name is a door. Doors open both ways." He measures the space between his lips and the next mistake. The night leans in until his chair creaks. The caller breathes like a clock. Unknown caller said, "It was not the first time." Alex hears the suggestion and feels the trap close. He tries to swallow the timeline. He fails. Alex Reed said, "No one asks for a first time. They ask for a clean result." He thinks of root servers and forgotten passwords. He imagines their graves in cached soil. Unknown caller said, "You were chosen because you already knew where to bury it." The lamp hum grows teeth. Alex Reed said, "I knew because I was asked to know." The rain writes hard cursive on the glass and refuses to stop. A siren far away threads the air and cuts out. Alex's hands flatten on the desk as if pressing down a rising truth. Unknown caller said, "How much was the memory worth?" He stares at the cash envelope without moving his head. Alex Reed said, "Enough to pay rent, enough to buy a month of silence." His stomach flips at the smallness of it. Unknown caller said, "You sold a biography for utilities." The line crackles as if offended. Alex Reed said, "It was already for sale. I just delivered it to the buyer." The window answers with thunder like slow applause. The portrait on the screen feels like a witness. Judge Marcus Hale looks out from pixels that pretend to be skin. Unknown caller said, "Do you know what you erased?" Alex tastes metal in his mouth. Alex Reed said, "I erased what I was told to erase." The answer is smaller than the question. Unknown caller said, "You erased what made him human." The rain falters and returns. Alex Reed said, "I erased what would drown me if I left it alive." The admission lands heavier than money. Outside, the city blinks and pretends it did not hear. Dawn arrives with a tired hush, and the rain pares itself down to a whisper. The apartment wears last night like a stain that will not lift. Alex Reed breathes as if the air might break. The screen is dark, but the name he saw still floats behind his eyes. The kettle clicks, a verdict disguised as routine. He stands, pours nothing, and sits again where the chair remembers him. Alex Reed said, "Not today." The words are too light to hold their own weight. He draws a circle in the condensation and stops where a second cup used to be. The city hums outside like a witness who has said this all before. He rubs his temples and finds no memory there that forgives him. The morning moves on without granting him permission. The hallway smells of wet concrete and old paint, dreaming of a better color. Alex ties his laces twice, as if knots could keep him from himself. The door's chain whispers open and stops at habit. He checks the lock again, superstition dressed as safety. A plant near the window droops like a question he will not answer. The router's dark eye blinks once and pretends to sleep. Alex Reed said, "I hear you." The apartment does not answer, because it is good at this. He pockets the USB drive and feels it like a tooth that should have been pulled. The stairwell echoes his steps into a version of him that leaves too easily. He shuts the door on a room that knows more than he does. The rooftop is a shallow ocean of puddles and satellite dishes, waiting for weather to decide. The call to prayer travels across the city like a hand smoothing a wrinkled sheet. Alex leans on the parapet and counts breaths he does not deserve. He watches clouds muscle the horizon and make room for a thin light. Unknown caller said, "You are not saving anyone." The echo is crisp, because guilt polishes memory. Alex Reed said, "Then why does it feel like drowning to stop?" His voice vanishes into traffic, layered under birds. He palms the USB as if warmth could absolve it. The wind lifts his hood and sets it down with a gentleness that hurts. The day is awake, and he is not. The laptop wakes with a tired glow, and the cursor blinks like a slow metronome for doubt. Alex renames folders to words that promise nothing. He empties a trash bin that overflows in his chest. He writes a script to check that nothing remains where something once breathed. He watches logs scroll until they are only motion. Alex Reed said, clean enough to pass a glance. The line is soft, but the meaning is blunt. He saves, closes, and pretends it is a door. The fan whirs, a small machine trying to outrun heat. He unplugs the drive and the room feels lighter in a way that frightens him. The bus smells like rain and coins and plans that did not happen. Alex sits by the window where puddles turn the street into a restless mirror. He watches people move as if certainty were a ticket they could afford. A child laughs somewhere, and the sound is braver than he is. He studies his reflection until it becomes weather. Alex Reed said, "Stop rehearsing." The order lands, then slides off. He opens a blank message and types no address. He writes a sentence and deletes every word except the period. The period looks like a hole, and he puts the phone away. The city rattles the frame but cannot shake him loose. Noon finds him in a basement co-working room where daylight is rumor and hum. The monitor shows a red denial that was not there last night. Shame sits beside him and pretends to help. Alex Reed said, "Raindex and purge." The command returns a refusal, dressed as policy. A new audit trail appears like a ghost that knows his name. Unknown caller said, "Stop touching it." The message lands without a ringtone and freezes his breath. He scrolls and sees backups he never configured. Someone has mirrored his sins with cleaner hands. Alex Reed said, "Who else is inside?" The answer is a cursor that will not move. The walls are painted optimism, and none of it reaches him. The email pings from an address he once trusted to vanish. The subject is a grin that hates him. Alex opens it and reads his own steps, written by a stranger. Client wrote, "You move, we publish." He tastes copper and remembers a better lie. Another line appears with an attachment shaped like a future. Client wrote, "Our agreement doubled." The word agreement feels like handcuffs with politeness. Alex Reed said, "You cannot threaten what I already confessed." He recognizes the bluff and still believes it. The room shrinks until the chair back digs into spine. He saves the file because defiance is sometimes neat. Outside the courthouse, the air smells like wet marble and microphones. Reporters feed on sentences while the city watches. Judge Marcus Hale steps to a podium and becomes a headline. The crowd leans forward as if pushed. Alex stays at the edge where shadows keep him cheap. Alex Reed said, "Tell the truth and cut me out." The wish is small because the man is large. A question shouts about sealed records and mercy. Judge Marcus Hale said, "The court will not litigate rumor." The phrase polishes itself while his eyes do not. Alex learns nothing and loses time. The rain considers returning and decides against it. The parking garage holds its breath like a threat. Sodium lamps smear everything the color of doubt. A text pings and becomes an order wearing shoes. Unknown caller wrote, Level 3, Pillar D, leave the drive. Alex Reed said, you first. The reply is a dot that never finishes. He pockets the USB and listens for a footstep that belongs to him. Tires hiss on wet concrete and vanish. He imagines cameras drawing circles around his pulse. Alex Reed said, you do not need me, you need my fear. The sentence surprises him with its spine. The elevator doors open and reflect someone who could still run. Back at the desk, the code opens like a wound that never learned to clot. He runs a checksum and gets a chorus of wrong notes. The mirror set is feeding from somewhere he cannot see. Alex Reed said, show me the source. The log gives him a path that loops into yesterday. He follows it and finds a name he buried in another job. Guilt becomes a hallway with no exits. Unknown caller said, you hid it in the wrong grave. The words arrive without punctuation and still cut clean. Alex Reed said, then it was meant to be found. He hears the chair complain when he stands. The room has learned his weight and is tired of him. Afternoon leans gray over a municipal records room where computers hum like insects. Alex Reed follows the mirrored path into an archive that should not breathe. A sealed docket number blinks at him as if alive. Alex Reed said, open the door. The page unfurls a lawsuit filed by Chambers of Hale against a registrar who vanished behind redactions. He scrolls through names struck out like teeth. A hidden index links to school rolls, hospital admissions, shelter intakes. Unknown caller wrote, look at ward status. He clicks and sees a line that should end but loops. Alex Reed said, why seal a child? The cursor shakes because his hand does. The fluorescent lights are too bright for this kind of dark. The tea stall roofs the sidewalk with tin, and the sky answers in taps. Rafi Kadir said, you never came here for tea. He is 41 and counts secrets like coins. Alex holds silence until it weighs enough. Alex Reed said, what did Hale hide? Rafi Kadir said, not what who. A bus coughs and leaves exhaust that tastes like regret. Rafi Kadir said, a custody order that moved like fog. No fingerprints, only cold. Alex thinks of ward files and missing benches. Rafi Kadir said, he called it protection. The word leans wrong. Alex Reed said, protection for whom? The steam lifts and does not warm him. The address leads to an old walk-up that smells of iron and years. The stairwell swallows shoes and returns them slower. A door opens without asking who he is. A woman steps into the lamp circle and holds the room together. Alex Reed said, you called me. Her eyes measure him and the debt beneath him. The woman said, say my name. He cannot, because the file taught him not to. Mara Hale said she was never missing. The sentence clicks the city into a new map. She is 29 and wears a calm made of scars. Alex Reed said, he sealed you. The hallway stops breathing. She lays out printouts like cards that only mean loss. Bank wires leave the judge's chambers and arrive in a shell Alex once wore. Mara Hale said, you took his money to translate me into fog. He wants to argue and finds only breath. Alex Reed said, I thought I was erasing leverage. Mara Hale said, you erased a person and left his power. The words land where apology cannot reach. She points to a mirror script stamped from his old repo. Mara Hale said, I bought it, turned it, made it follow light instead of dark. Alex sees his tools reworded into refusal. The lie was safer because it asked less. The room narrows to a choice that does not feel like one. Mara Hale said, restore me or leave me buried where he put me. Alex hears the courthouse marble breathing behind her name. Alex Reed said, if I restore you, he burns me. Mara Hale said, If you do not, I publish you. The sentences balance like blades on a table. Alex Reed said, Why come to me at all? Mara Hale said, Because you are the only thief who hated the theft. The mirror laptop waits like a witness. The rain returns to keep time. The truth scratches at the door until someone opens it. Night settles like a verdict no one wants to read twice. The storm returns to write hard lines on the glass. Cables braid the table where plans try to become courage. Mara Hale said, No more drafts, Alex. Her voice is steady and built for weather. Alex Reed said, Once we push, there is no undo. He tests the mirrored archive and hears the fan grind. The checksum sings clean for the first time today. Mara Hale said, He hid me to keep his robe spotless. The words hit the room and stay. Alex Reed said, We restore the ward file and let it breathe. He keys a script that will flood the registrar with light. The timer blinks toward a time when they cannot pretend. Mara Hale said, He will come. Alex Reed said, He should. The city hums as if the courthouse already knows their names. Somewhere the rain finds a leak and counts seconds for them both. The courthouse after hours breathes like a cathedral with secrets. Security lights smear the halls in bruised amber. Their footsteps soften to avoid alarms that remember everything. Mara Hale said, Pillar C, data room. She carries nothing that can be taken away. Alex Reed said, Badge reader loops on a weak hash. He patches a bypass that fits like a stolen key. The door yields with a click that sounds like surrender. Racks blink cold and patient. Alex Reed said, We post the restored chain and lock it open. Mara Hale said, Make it loud enough to be heard. He seeds public audit mirrors and watches them spread. A camera turns and tucks itself into shadow. The air goes still, as if waiting for a gavel. The judge's chambers smell of old books and rehearsed mercy. A door behind them opens with a whisper that tries to be kind. Judge Marcus Hale steps in and closes the room around his name. Judge Marcus Hale said, Return what you stole. His robe carries certainty like armor. Mara Hale said, You sealed me to polish yourself. The sentence cracks the wood. Judge Marcus Hale said, Protection required discretion. His gaze does not blink. Alex Reed said, You paid me to turn a daughter into metadata. The word daughter hangs heavier than law. Mara Hale said, Say the truth, father. Silence grows teeth and bites. Well, Judge Marcus Hale said, I preserved the court. The lie sounds ceremonial and thin. The storm hits the window like a crowd that wants in. Alex sets the drive on the desk like a match beside dry leaves. He opens the mirror and roots it into public custody logs. Alex Reed said, The ward file restores now and replicates everywhere. The screen fills with a lineage the court buried. Judge Marcus Hale said, You will destroy a reputation that built order. His hand tightens on the robe's edge. Mara Hale said, You destroyed me to buy it. She pulls a framed oath from the shelf and holds it like a verdict. The glass reflects three faces that cannot be the same again. Alex Reed said, I sign this with my name. He triggers broadcast and feels the floor tilt. Alarms chirp like small birds learning a dangerous song. Something sacred breaks, and it is the room's belief in itself. The shout arrives because no one can carry this quietly. Judge Marcus Hale said, You betray the court. His voice scrapes the shelves. Mara Hale said, You betrayed blood and called it order. The frame slips and the glass bites the rug. Alex Reed said, I erased you for rent and I restore her for nothing. The confession lands and burns clean. Doors hammer with fists that bring procedures. Judge Marcus Hale said, I will end you both. He reaches for the laptop and meets Mara's stare. Mara Hale said, You already did. The siren outside stops to listen. Alex Reed said, Let them in. The broadcast counter climbs past numbers that feel safe. Whatever mercy was left leaves by the window. and does not return. The night does not end so much as thin. Security takes statements while the sirens quiet like scolded dogs. A recorder blinks as if it understands. Alex Reed said, "The mirrors are public and immutable." The officer writes like a tired metronome. Mara Hale said, "The ward file bears my name again." The room hears the word again and does not celebrate. Judge Marcus Hale sits across a table and studies the law that used to obey him. Judge Marcus Hale said, "You have harmed the court." The sentence falls and finds no cushion. Alex Reed said, "Truth harmed your version of it." The fluorescence buzz in the storm recedes to a rumor. What passes for justice begins to stretch its limbs without warmth. Dawn shaves color from the city and leaves angles. Headlines bloom before breakfast and eat their own roots. The registry shows the restored chain while comments grind their teeth. Mara Hale said, "He cannot unseal me again." The vow cost something in her eyes. Alex Reed said, "They will try to seal me instead." A call from Oversight arrives with careful words and sharper intent. Oversight officer said, "Report at 9 with artifacts and counsel." The clock looks louder than it is. Judge Marcus Hale said, "I will appeal every inch." The courthouse stone remains unmoved. The day opens its ledger without softness. The cyber unit smells like burnt dust and late apologies. Screens whisper in languages that know where data hides. Alex stacks drives as if building a scaffold for his own sentence. Alex Reed said, "These are the tools I used and the logs I kept." The detective nods like a locksmith who dislikes doors. Detective said, "Testify, and you may keep daylight." The offer has edges and a clock. Alex Reed said, "I will name every alias and route." The words feel like inventory and penance. A printer coughs out forms that understand consequence. Nothing in the room applauds the truth for arriving late. The registrar window opens like a throat clearing. A clerk slides a document that weighs more than paper. Clerk said, "Name restoration confirmed and time-stamped." Mara signs with a hand that remembers every door she could not open. Mara Hale said, "I accept the record and the noise that follows it." The pen scratches like a match. Outside, the city tests a new story and mispronounces it. Alex Reed said, "There will be backlash." Mara Hale said, "Let it arrive and see I am still here." The stamp lands and the page stops trembling. Peace shows up and demands full price. Evening returns without thunder and feels unfamiliar. Alex sits in the apartment that knows his confessions by heart. The chair keeps its creak like a small sentence. News murmurs about suspension and inquiry, and no one is happy. Alex Reed said, "Clean is not the same as forgiven." The room agrees by staying quiet. A message arrives with no greeting and a link to testimony schedules. Unknown caller wrote, "You walk in first or I will drag the light to you." He studies the period at the end and finds it honest. Alex Reed said, "I will walk." Outside, the rain considers a comeback and spares them both. Morning folds the courthouse into pale geometry and leaves no shadows kind enough. The air tastes of damp stone and printer ink trying to be official. Alex Reed walks beside Mara Hale and counts the steps like due dates. Mara Hale said, "You speak first." The words were steel and cost. Alex Reed said, "I know." He adjusts his glasses as if focus were a pardon. A bailiff nods and the doors exhale rules. Reporters drift like weather that has chosen a face. Alex Reed said, "Whatever I kept, I return now." The sentence feels smaller than the ledger. Mara Hale said, "Return yourself, not just the data." The line lands where apology starves. The clock above them ticks like a dry throat that refuses water. They pass under it and do not bow. The hearing room arranges its chairs like chess and waits for a first mistake. Panelists stack pens as if building a fence. A red light wakes on the microphone and chooses Alex Reed. Alex Reed said, "I erased for pay, The digital history of Judge Marcus Hale. The sentence fits nowhere soft. Alex Reed said, I restored the sealed ward chain and mirrored it to public custody. Paper whispers like grass in wind, that means business. Detective said, state every alias and method. Alex Reed said, all of them, and how to fix the holes I used. The room writes him into a smaller future that still has doors. Mara Hale watches and holds still so he cannot borrow her steadiness. The truth does not clap. It records. The door opens like a compromise that arrives late. Judge Marcus Hale steps in, robe unbuttoned at the throat, and stands without asking for forgiveness. A counsel clears his voice until it is a blade. Counsel said, respond to the restoration. Judge Marcus Hale said, I acted to protect the court. The phrase is polished and thin. Mara Hale said, say it as a father, not a title. The room leans closer and forgets to blink. Judge Marcus Hale said, I did not lose her, I gave her away. The sentence peels varnish from wood. Alex Reed feels the floor tilt toward consequence. A pen drops and becomes a verdict no one signed. Rain taps the tall windows as if tallying costs. Bindings arrive without ceremony and still bruise. Panel chair said, interim suspension, referral for inquiry, records remain restored. The words ring like a hammer wrapped in cloth. Judge Marcus Hale closes his eyes and counts nothing. Mara Hale does not smile because peace has receipts. Alex Reed said, I will testify again if asked. The vow is plain and costly. Reporters ask for triumph and receive silence that will print better. Counsel gathers folders as if collecting weather. A clerk opens the door to a hallway that has learned their footprints. The room empties itself and keeps the echo. No one offers comfort because clarity is here, and it is heavy. Night returns to the apartment that counts breaths and keeps score. The rain is gone and leaves the city shiny and tired. Alex Reed sets the phone face down so it can judge him less. A knock arrives that knows the door. Mara Hale steps in and studies the room that helped erase her. Mara Hale said, the mirrors hold. Alex Reed said, I know. He looks older than his number and earns it. Mara Hale said, you did the right thing late. The sentence fits and cuts. Alex Reed said, I cannot ask you to forgive me. The window hums with traffic that will not testify. Mara Hale looked at him once and let the quiet finish the thought. Mara Hale said, I will never forgive you.